Behind every dollar you hold, a hidden war has been raging for over a century. This isn't a war fought with soldiers and tanks, but a silent, relentless battle for power. It's a struggle between private banking elites and the very government that prints your money, all centered on one critical question: who truly controls the dollar? Today, we'll uncover the untold story of how private banks quietly became more powerful than nations, and how this secret financial war shapes your life every single day. But before we start, if you enjoy videos that expose the hidden mechanics of money and power, make sure you subscribe because we have a lot to uncover together. And tell me in the comments, which country are you watching from, and what time of day is it where you are right now? I'm curious to see how far this conversation reaches. Let's start with a simple fact. The battle for control over America's money began long before the nation was even fully built. It's a conflict etched into the very foundation of the United States. In 1791, the first Bank of the United States was chartered. It wasn't a government institution in the way we think of one today. It was largely controlled by wealthy private bankers, both domestic and foreign. The idea was to stabilize the young nation's finances, but it immediately sparked a fierce debate about who should hold the reins of the economy. This early struggle was a sign of the storm to come. Decades later, the fight intensified. President Andrew Jackson, a populist firebrand, famously declared war on the Second Bank of the United States, which he saw as a corrupt institution serving the rich at the expense of the common person. He called it a den of vipers and thieves, a monster that concentrated too much power in the hands of an unelected few. In 1832, he vetoed the bank's recharter, a move that shook the financial establishment to its core. Jackson believed that the government, and by extension the people, must have sovereign control over their own currency. But this victory was temporary. The forces he fought against didn't disappear. They simply retreated into the shadows, waiting for the right moment to reclaim their power. That moment arrived in 1913 with the birth of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve Act of 1913 is often presented as a dry piece of financial legislation, a necessary step to prevent banking panics. But the reality is far more dramatic. This act quietly and decisively transferred the power to create and manage America's money from the U.S. government to a network of private banks. The plan wasn't hatched in the open halls of Congress, but during a secret meeting on a remote coastal island. In November 1910, a group of the nation's most powerful bankers and a handful of influential senators convened on Jekyll Island, Georgia, under the guise of a duck hunting trip. For over a week, they worked in absolute secrecy to design a central banking system that would serve their interests while appearing to be a public institution. They knew that if the public discovered that private bankers were writing the legislation to control the nation's money supply, it would never be approved. So they crafted a system with a public face, a board of governors appointed by the president, but with its operational core. The 12 regional reserve banks owned by the private number banks in their districts. This created a powerful illusion of government oversight. As the famous quote often attributed to Meyer Amschel Rothschild states, "Give me control of a nation's money, and I care not who makes its laws." With the creation of the Fed, this principle became the new reality for the United States. The private banking elite had won a crucial battle, establishing a permanent foothold at the heart of the American economy. From that point on, the hidden war for the dollar played out across the major events of the 20th century. Each crisis became an opportunity for the banking system to expand its influence. During the Great Depression in the 1930s, President Franklin D. Roosevelt made a pivotal move. He took the U.S. off the domestic gold standard, forcing citizens to turn in their gold coins and certificates for paper dollars. While this gave the government more flexibility to combat the economic collapse, it also further disconnected the dollar from any tangible value, making its worth dependent on trust and policies increasingly influenced by the Federal Reserve. The final break came in 1971. President Richard Nixon, facing mounting economic pressures from the Vietnam War and international demands to redeem dollars for gold, unilaterally severed the dollar's last link to the precious metal. The world entered the era of pure fiat currency. The dollar was now backed by nothing but the full faith and credit of the U.S. government. But this move also coincided with a brilliant strategic play, the birth of the petrodollar system. By striking a deal with Saudi Arabia and other OPEC nations to trade oil exclusively in U.S. dollars, the system ensured a constant global demand for American currency. Nations around the world now had to hold vast reserves of dollars to buy oil, effectively propping up the dollar's value and financing America's growing deficits. This brings us to the modern era, where the Fed's power is absolute. Its balance sheet, which has ballooned into the trillions, dictates the movements of global markets. But the real power isn't just with the Fed. It's distributed throughout the entire banking system. Today, most new money isn't printed by the government at all. It's created out of thin air every time a commercial bank issues a loan. When you take out a mortgage, a car loan, or use a credit card, the bank digitally creates new dollars in your account. This is money born from debt. This system creates a perpetual cycle of indebtedness. The more the government, businesses, and individuals borrow, the more money is created, and the more profit the banks earn from the interest on that debt. America's national debt, now soaring into the tens of trillions, isn't just a liability for taxpayers. It's a massive asset on the balance sheets of the institutions that hold that debt. The reality of our financial world is that every single dollar in circulation is essentially rented, not owned. It represents a tiny fraction of a debt owed to a private institution. Think about it. The money you earn is created as a loan, and that loan must be paid back with interest. But where does the money to pay the interest come from? It must be created through even more loans, leading to an ever-expanding spiral of debt. This is the invisible architecture of control. It has a system designed to ensure that society as a whole can never truly get out of debt. The dollar isn't a tool of freedom for the people. It's a mechanism of control for the system. So, when we talk about this war, it's crucial to understand it's not fought with guns and bombs. It's a war fought with much quieter, more insidious weapons: interest rates, quantitative easing, and inflation. The Federal Reserve, while appearing to serve the public interest by managing inflation and employment, is in a constant dance with the private banks that are its shareholders. Its decisions can create booms that enrich the wealthy owners of assets and busts that wipe out the savings of ordinary people. It can devalue the currency through inflation, effectively imposing a hidden tax on every dollar you save. The core illusion is that the Federal Reserve is a government agency working for the American people. In truth, its unique public-private structure places it in a position to influence the government far more than the government can influence it. If your money is losing purchasing power every single year, and the national debt continues to climb to unimaginable heights, you have to ask yourself, who is this system really designed to benefit? Who truly wins when the currency of the people is systematically devalued? The dollar is far more than just paper and ink or a number on a screen. It is a promise, a weapon, and for many, a chain. The war for control of money never ended after Andrew Jackson's presidency. It just became invisible, moving from the halls of Congress to the secret meetings on Jekyll Island, and finally into the digital ledgers that govern our global economy. The battlefield has changed, but the fight for power rages on. In this hidden war between private banks and the U.S. dollar, who do you think is winning?